It was a dark, quiet night in the crowded streets of Calcutta, India. Most people were fast asleep in their homes, but not everyone was safe or comfortable. Suddenly, a soft cry broke the silence. It wasn't a baby's cry, it sounded more like someone moaning in pain. Small rats scrambled across the street, searching for scraps of food, and a few stray dogs barked at the moon. The alley was dimly lit by a single streetlight that flickered as if it, too, was unsure about staying on. A figure wearing a simple white and blue cloth around her head and shoulders moved swiftly through the shadows, drawn by the sad sound. That figure was Mother Teresa. She was on her nightly rounds, looking for people who had no homes and no one to care for them. Her heart pounded as she followed the faint cries, not knowing what she might find. All she knew was that someone needed her help, and she wouldn't rest until she found them. What she discovered around the next corner would change not only her life but the lives of countless others. A few hours earlier, most of Calcutta had been busy. People rushed through the markets, bargaining for vegetables and spices. Buses rumbled down the roads, honking as they wove between rickshaws. But when night fell, many of the poor and sick were left on the streets alone. Sadly, too many people pretended not to see them. Mother Teresa was different. She went out looking for them. The cry led her to a narrow alley. The walls were grimy with faded posters, and rats scurried in the shadows. Just when she thought she had lost the trail, she spotted an old man curled up against a wall. He looked thin, weak, and frightened. He reached out a trembling hand as she knelt beside him. "Please," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Help me!" At that moment, Mother Teresa could have felt fear or disgust. After all, this man was dirty, and the alley smelled terrible. But instead she felt a surge of compassion. She gently placed her hand over his and promised, "I will. I'm here now." How could one small woman help a man in such terrible shape, especially at midnight in a dangerous alley? Anything could happen. Robbers might lurk around the corner, but Mother Teresa pushed her fears aside, determined to bring this man to a safe place. She waved for a taxi. At first, the driver didn't want to stop. He saw the poor man and was afraid he wouldn't be paid. But once he recognized Mother Teresa, he sighed and agreed to take them. Inside the taxi, the old man rested his head on her shoulder, his breath shallow and his body shivering despite the warm night air. Mother Teresa stayed calm, whispering soothing words, knowing each moment counted. As the taxi rolled through the quiet streets, she remembered her own childhood in Skopje, now in North Macedonia, far away from India. Her name back then was Agnes Goncha Boyakshu. Even as a girl, she felt a strong calling to care for others. When she was just 18, she left her home to become a nun and eventually traveled to India, where she saw shocking poverty firsthand. She served as a school teacher for a while, but her heart ached whenever she saw people suffering on the streets. That's when she decided to start a new mission, helping the sick, the homeless, and the unloved. By the time Mother Teresa and the old man arrived at the clinic, he was in bad shape. The doctor on duty examined him, frowning with concern. He had infections and was severely malnourished. "If you had waited any longer," the doctor said, "we might have lost him." Mother Teresa thanked him and began washing the man's wounds and changing his clothes. Though she was exhausted, nearly 3 a.m, she refused to rest. Some workers at the clinic were puzzled. Why not wait for the morning staff? But Mother Teresa believed that every minute mattered, and no life was too small or too poor to save. Daylight crept in, casting a soft glow over the streets. In the clinic, the old man opened his eyes and saw Mother Teresa by his bedside, her eyes shining with determination even though she had barely slept. She reassured him he would be okay, but knew he would need more than just a night's care. He needed medicine, proper nutrition, and ongoing support. And that was only one man. Countless others in the city needed her help too. She decided she would use every resource she had to care for them. Over the following weeks, as Mother Teresa and her group searched Calcutta's alleys for people in need, they faced many dangers. Thieves roamed at night, and one evening, a group of bandits nearly robbed her. It was a tense moment. Would they hurt her for the little money she had to buy food for the poor? She calmly told them she had no gold or jewels, only funds to help the homeless. She even offered them food if they were hungry. Startled by her courage and kindness, the bandits left her unharmed. She realized then how kindness could be more powerful than fear. On another afternoon, a man dressed in ragged clothes approached her as she served soup to the homeless. He watched quietly and then asked, "Why do you bother with people who have nothing to give you in return?" Some onlookers wondered the same thing, especially when they saw how tired she looked after working so many hours. Mother Teresa turned to the stranger and smiled. "Because everyone deserves love," she answered. "Even if they have no home, no money, or no family, they are still human beings." The man paused, looked at her carefully, and then handed her a crumpled piece of paper showing a map of a small alleyway where several sick people were hiding, too ashamed to come out in public. She thanked him. Sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. Following the map, Mother Teresa and two other sisters found a mother and her children living under a torn plastic sheet. The children were weak from hunger, and the mother's eyes were filled with despair. The sisters brought rice, lentils, blankets, and fresh water. They helped the family get medical attention and find a safer place to stay. The children giggled in delight when they got new sandals. They had never owned shoes before. The mother cried tears of relief, hugging her children close. This was more than giving food or clothes. It was about restoring dignity. As the years went by, Mother Teresa's fame spread beyond India. People worldwide heard stories of the gentle nun who rescued the sick and the dying from the streets. Some admired her, others questioned her methods. But she never stopped. In 1979, she received the Nobel Peace Prize. Surprised by the honor, she used the award to bring even more attention to the poor. During the ceremony, instead of a fancy dinner, she asked that the money be used to feed the hungry. Her actions showed that kindness could bridge any gap, even between rich and poor, powerful and powerless. The toughest tests often came when other sisters working with her fell ill or faced danger in the streets. Mother Teresa stayed up many nights worrying about them, but their unwavering dedication only made her stronger. Even the local police, who had once been suspicious, came to respect her. As more people received help, there was less desperation and crime, proving that compassion could solve problems fear could not. When Mother Teresa passed away in 1997, her missionaries of charity continued her work, and her example inspired countless others. Whether it's volunteering at a food bank, helping a neighbor, or standing up for a bullied classmate, each act of kindness helps make the world a better place. By her life, Mother Teresa showed that even in a cruel world, kindness can shine like a bright light in the darkness. Her story reminds us that real success doesn't come from how much we earn or how powerful we become. It comes from how much we care for others. If a single person can change so many lives with courage and love, imagine what we can do if we, too, refuse to stand by when we see someone suffering. We can make a difference one small act at a time. And in doing so, we find that kindness isn't a weakness. It's the strongest force there is, capable of transforming both the world around us and the hearts within us.